Hi, I'm back. I've been a little bit busy. As you all know, I've had previous shoulder surgeries, and I did say if the last one didn't work, I was going to get it done again. So I've had it done again because I'm very pedantic and I like to test everything. I had an MRI after the second one. The first one didn't work. The second one was a graft. They took part of my hamstrings and used it to reattach my shoulder tendons. And the first MRI showed that it was together, and the doctor said that's fine, you won't have to do any more. But me and the nature of what I'm like and how I do things, I got another MRI, and sure enough the doctor was in shock. The shoulder had come apart again. Now I'm not sure how I did it, but I have taken extra precautions, and I don't have a very good chance of it healing, although the doctor did not have to graft any more hamstring. He just simply sewed together what he found in there. And I'm hoping for the best. This is the last shoulder operation I'm having. After that, I'm just simply going to have to rehabilitate it, because what I've noticed is that 80% of these shoulder operations probably never work, except nobody goes back in to test to see if they're actually holding. They just rehabilitate the shoulder. Usually the shoulder comes out better because the surgeon in some way will always improve it. So probably 80% of the people that have had a shoulder operation of the same as what I've had are walking around with something that's actually not as functional as they think, and they've probably got it back to almost full function by doing rehabilitation exercises and just strengthening the muscles that are there. So this is the last one. After this I want to get back in the gym and get in shape, and I'll film all of that, and I'll let you know exactly how I'm going. So I've been busy doing that. I've been busy prepping people for contests, and that's a subject that for me takes a long time because I'm very personal with it. But what I'm noticing is that there's a lot of online gurus that are offering people personal training, and I'm trying to develop something online which is actually a lot better than what I see that's out there now. Because let me tell you something, if I was going to get prepped and I got some of the treatment and programs and diets that these guys are giving you online, I don't think I'd want to be part of that. So I'm developing something where it's a lot more sophisticated than anything that's out there now. What I've also noticed is that there's a lot of courses for sale in the United States and also in Australia. Courses that teach you how to be a functional training coach or a coach of some sort, bodybuilding coaches, whatever. All of these courses seem to be accredited, and some of them have CC points or have some sort of accreditation. Now, my worry is, who's the guy that put the course together? And by accrediting a course, you're actually making it really safe, so you can get insurance, and pretty much you're not going to learn what's going on in the real world. So I have a friend of mine by the name of Glenn Shermer who has about 50 years of experience in the industry like I've got. So collectively there's 100 years of experience, and it's not just from me and Glenn, it's from other experts that we deal with. Now, just to let you know the level at what Glenn works at, this guy is in the moment training a president of some country in Dubai. He trains presidents, millionaires, rocket scientists in India. Yes, rocket scientists. I'm not going to mention their names. They're very rich families, and this guy knows how to make money from personal training. On the other hand, I'm here in Australia working as a regular personal trainer and probably getting paid what everybody else gets paid, if not less, and I'm wasting my talent, that's for sure. I'm looking at other business ventures, but definitely will not leave the field that I'm dealing with, the fitness industry, in the state that it's in. It needs something more. Any courses that I develop along with my colleagues are probably going to be the next level up, and they're probably going to have to be classed as underground, because the stuff that I go into, you will never find in a course. If you want to learn how to make money from being a personal trainer, the only people that actually are making money from personal training courses are the people that are teaching the personal training courses. Okay, if you actually want to make money as a personal trainer, I think you need to know the next level up of things and how they're done and what goes on in the real world, which is really underground, and it's stuff that no one ever talks about. Because what I'm finding is I'm getting clients from other coaches, and some of the stuff that I bring up, let's just say they've never heard of it. And today was a good example. I was with a new client who actually came into my home, and he was in shock at the stuff that I was telling him. Actually, not in shock, he was very impressed. And then I got a call from a physician who deals with, let's say he's one of Sydney's top sports physicians. I know he doesn't want his name mentioned. He deals with stem cells, PRP, orthocline, all sorts of different things. Now, when he calls me to ask me for advice, I didn't realise that until the guy sitting there said, yeah, well, I didn't know sports physicians consult with you. He goes, I may actually need to see one. So that's the level that I do things at. And I just wanted to mention that. And, you know, all this stuff we're going to be discussing, it's all going to be available through classicbodybuilding.com. We will teach you how to build a classic physique. This information is not out there. Nobody's got it. And from what I can see, nobody has put anything together. People call them, you know, people say they've got classic bodybuilding courses, but I think what they're actually talking about is just regular bodybuilding and possibly keeping it to a level where you look classic. There is no course out there that actually helps you build a classic physique from the ground up. And that is one of the things that we're going to be putting together. This is going to be really comprehensive, and I think probably the best way for me to do it, because it is so comprehensive, I'm going to start holding mini seminars that cover possibly a topic at a time, like nutrition. If we get into nutrition the way I do nutrition, I doubt it that there's a dietitian or a nutritionist that can offer you what I do. And in fact, I know that because where I work, there's many clients that have a trainer, then they see a dietitian or a nutritionist, and when they finally have enough courage to show me what their nutritionist is giving them, I'm like, are you for real? And it's not bad, but it's nothing that's going to get them to where they need to go. That's for sure. So, for instance, the nutrition course, I mean, where does it start? Where does it end? There's just so much. It's so comprehensive. And I will teach you things that possibly you will never get taught in a university course. Then there's just body fat testing. There's metabolic rate. There's the thyroid, the T3, the T4, the thyroid stimulating hormones. If it's shut down, how do you get your brain to produce it? On and on and on. And I have taught courses before. I do have a teaching diploma. And really, whenever I've had to teach within a course structure, I never last too long, because as soon as a student realizes what I know, we actually cover the course, and then they're talking about things which are not part of the course, and the institution's never happy with it. So I gave up on that a while back, because the students then started seeing me privately, but I couldn't certify them in any way because I don't deal with governing bodies. And who are these governing bodies, and who in these governing bodies has put together anything that's actually worthwhile, like what I'm talking about? So I've actually spoken to insurance companies, and I can get insurance, but in the end they will say, well, look, you know, you need to get an exercise physiologist to sign off on it or whatever, because in case anybody questions it, they want a person who is certified. But who certified them? Who was their teacher? Was it somebody at my level, or was it somebody who again was teaching something that was more to do with being safe and not going over the top to the next level? So that's what I'm talking about. Now, this will all be part of things that are going to be discussed in classicbodybuilding.com. So I recommend becoming a member of that site. It's free. It's a Facebook group called classicbodybuilding.com. the reason why I've called it that is because I own the URL. I paid a lot of money for it. Eventually it'll have a website. It'll probably have a show, interviews. Next week I'm going to be interviewing a very important figure in the fitness industry. His name is Doc Hall, and he has agreed to an interview. I've also spoken to Mike Christian, and he may be the following interview after Doc Hall. I've spoken to Richard Baldwin, a classic bodybuilder from the 70s and 80s, who has agreed to an interview. And I'm chasing down some females who are hard to get a hold of, like Tonya Knight. She seems to be a really nice person. She's part of classicbodybuilding.com, but really, really busy and hard to get a hold of. Tonya, if you hear this, yes, I'm asking you, will you do an interview with me? Probably one of the best interviewers that I've ever come across is John Hansen. Now, John Hansen is a champion bodybuilder in his 50s, and I really love the way this guy leads his life and how he operates within the industry. And I would like to interview him one day. So, John, if you're hearing this, I'd like to interview you. Having said all this, I want to be talking about the group, because there are a lot of groups out there, and you know, I was part of a group that I left about a week or so ago because I was quite disgusted with the behaviour of the people who run that group. It seems to be a group where you get lured in, and then if you don't follow certain protocols, you basically get picked on and then thrown out and made fun of. Classicbodybuilding.com is not like that. We encourage people to disagree. We encourage people to post. We encourage people to give their opinion. You don't have to agree with anything I say. If you can teach me something, I would love it. If you can correct me on anything, thank you very much. I would love that as well. So we really look at educating people, and the main thing about classicbodybuilding.com is we want to change the course of bodybuilding. Now, I hear from everybody that it's dying. You've got classic bodybuilding, and that seems to be more popular, but it's not really the way that it should be. And men's open bodybuilding has gotten to a stage where nobody will sponsor it any further. No ESPN, no TV channels want to cover it any longer. We've lost women's bodybuilding because it got out of hand. And classicbodybuilding.com is about putting everything back on track. You know, and it's a very simple formula. I'm not sure, like I just blinked my eyes, and all of a sudden we went from what we had in the 80s, 70s and 80s. In the 90s it was still there, but it started changing. Now, I'm not blaming anybody for this change. You know, how did it happen? You know, probably Dorian Yates, who was the biggest, hardest bodybuilder in the history of bodybuilding. You know, this guy came along, he built all this size, except he was still aesthetic. Dorian had a flat stomach. His conditioning was 100% on. He was thick, hard, dense, but most of all, he had a flat stomach. He had aesthetics. You know, before Dorian, there was Lee Haney. He will go down as the greatest Mr. Olympia ever. And, you know, Ronnie Coleman, well, Ronnie Coleman, I'm not sure what to say about Ronnie. He's really great. But, you know, Ronnie doesn't have an unblemished record like Lee Haney. Ronnie looked really good for the first few Mr. Olympias. Maybe for the first couple, he probably achieved his best shape at the Arnold Classic. I think it was either 2000 or 2001. Ronnie probably had one of the best waistlines in bodybuilding when he first came out as a pro, or actually when he was in the amateur ranks. And by the time he finished his career, he had one of the worst waistlines in bodybuilding. And if I'm not blaming Ronnie for what we currently have, but the fact that he went in that direction, he probably had a huge following of people that wanted to be as big as him. And, you know, people followed his lead. And it got to the point where nobody worried about their waistlines anymore. They just started worrying about muscle size. Towards the end, Ronnie's waistline was blown out. It was way too big. It was way too thick. And it did not look good. Now, people blame insulin and growth hormone on this, but let me give you my version of what I think that is all about. When you're taking growth hormone, it does not give you a huge waistline. What will happen with growth hormone is it will allow you to eat significantly more food, and it helps you stay hard. So the extra calories that you're getting have less chance of being converted to body fat, okay, because of the use of growth hormone. Now, what that does is it extends your waistline, okay? The guy eats a lot of food, he looks in the mirror, he sees veins on his stomach because the growth hormone may be having a synergistic effect with their training, thyroid medication, whatever, okay? So you can eat a lot more food and stay hard, except eating a lot more food will extend the size of your waist. And then insulin comes into it. And by taking insulin, a lot of that food helps get shuttled into the muscle cells, except nobody's watching the waistline. Now, when you've got a combination like this going, the foods that you eat could be causing Candida albicans within the waist, within the stomach, and that's one of the reasons why you have a distended waistline. I don't take growth hormone, I don't take insulin, I don't take anything, okay? But when I overeat, I have a bit of a waistline issue at the moment because I'm not exercising. And if I have a good Italian dinner 2 or 3 days in a row, by the third day, I'm looking like I'm almost pregnant. My stomach does not look flat. So a diet has to be adhered to. And I feel that in the 70s and 80s, when we had small waistlines, it was probably because we weren't eating so much and we really cared about the way we looked and our waistlines looked. And there just wasn't all this overeating and trying to shuttle, more nutrients into the muscle cells. We grew by training with weights. Yes, we took small amounts of anabolic steroids intermittently throughout the year, but that was it. Did we use growth hormone? Yes. Did we have large waistlines? No. So it makes me think there were diabetics in the 80s that had to take insulin because they were bodybuilders and they were diabetics. Yes, they were using growth hormone and steroids. No, they did not have a big waistline. Okay? That is a fact. Now, I like speaking to experts like Jerry Brainham, who has a newsletter, Applied Metabolics. The guy's a genius. Like if I've said something and he doesn't agree with it, if he doesn't agree with it, I would tend to question him to see why, because this guy's really smart and he's got a lot of experience. Okay? This is why I want to interview some of the people that I've spoken about, because for that same reason, the experience, the intellect, you can't beat experience. So this was just an explanation of what classic bodybuilding has to offer, and I hope you enjoy my little posts because they're going to be coming regular again. I've got my friend Gareth here filming me, but eventually what's going to happen is Gareth will visit me when he has his camera and we're going to be filming other more interesting subjects. I will probably do this with some sort of a stick that I can put on my shoulders or wrap around me and have the phone by my face while I'm doing a power walk or so I can go onto these rants and actually talk about subjects which, if you like this, please like it, share it, and send me some information on some of the things that you'd like to hear about, because there's a lot of stuff that I've learned over the last 50 years, almost 50 years, and I started bodybuilding at a young age, and I've continued it throughout my whole life. And there's probably a reason why I'm the only person in Australia that has won a professional Mr. Universe title. I'm not sure if it's my genetics, but I think it could be the level of knowledge that I have. Nobody's done it since. So I would tend to think, without boasting, that, and I can only say this, but me seeing what's out there, and it doesn't impress me. It's good information, But the reason why it doesn't impress me, because I actually do know what's on the next level that nobody's gone to. So if you like it, share it, send me some feedback, and I'll be back to you next week.